Welcome to Pitch Perfect with me, Steve Rawling. My contact details are there on the screen, but let's get straight into the subject. What exactly is a pitch? Well, you can think of a pitch as being like the opening line of a conversation that has a definite end in mind. So it's not a chat, it's not networking, you're trying to get something from the people you're talking to. A good pitch is the start of a meaningful relationship with an investor, a supporter, or a client. But crucially, it's the start of a conversation. You need to think about three things. First of all, about what you're saying about yourself, then think about your audience, and then think about the message you're trying to get across. So what do people need to know about you that reassures them that they are okay to keep listening? Now, that doesn't mean telling them your entire life story. You only need to tell them one or two things about yourself, maybe how you've got to where you are now, why it is so important to you. Just enough to establish your credibility. And the second thing you need to get right in at the beginning of your pitch is why your idea is so different and so special. Now, if you're having a bit of difficulty nailing that yourself, being absolutely clear about why your idea is special, maybe this next exercise will help you, and it comes from a toy brand you'll know, and that's Lego. 15 years ago, Lego was a struggling company. They'd diversified into too many lines of products that they didn't fully understand. Their profits were going down while their costs were going up. And by 2004-2005, there was a real chance they were going to go bankrupt. So the senior team came together and asked themselves this one question. If Lego ceased to exist, what would people miss? And they realized that the answer was people would miss the simple brick. The idea that you can buy a kit of Lego parts and build exactly what's on the box by following the instructions, but you can also mix it with other kits, and because every brick fits with every other brick, you can make anything you like. And that was what was unique about Lego. And they refocused the company around that simple proposition, and it helped them become successful again. Now, you can try a similar exercise if you're not sure yet about your core proposition, and that is to imagine the world without you. If your idea never happened, what would people miss? Now that might mean what would you miss as an individual? It might mean what would your clients or your customers, what would they miss? It might mean what the people you're pitching to would miss. Or be more ambitious, it might mean what would the world miss? So have a go, write down as many answers to those questions as you can, and after a few minutes take a look back and think, which of these elements really excites me? Which of these feels special? And maybe that's the core of your message, and you need to get that up really early in your pitch. Now let's think about your audience, and this is where you really need to do your homework about the people who you're pitching to. You need to establish, what does your audience need to know from you? What do they know already? And then, how much time and space do they have for this conversation? There's no point going into a 5-minute pitch window with 15 minutes worth of information. So there are 6 questions you should try and answer in your pitch, no matter how long you've got to talk to people. The first of all, what is your idea? And keep it really brief. If you can't get your idea down to 2 sentences, maybe you're not ready to pitch it. Who is going to benefit from your idea? And then follow that up with, where is your evidence that they're going to benefit? It's really important to have evidence to back up what you're saying. Once you've established those things, you can get into the detail. How is this going to work? Why is this idea important right now? If you convince people it's important to do it now, you're creating a sense of urgency, which is important. But the other why question you need to answer is, why do I care about this? Now, the reason why you talk about why you care about this is because, well, there are 2 reasons. The first is that if you establish an emotional connection with the people listening, they're much more likely to remember what you've said. But the second reason is, if they're going to invest in you and your idea, that's a long-term commitment, and they need to know you care because they need to know you'll stick with it for the long term. There's some specific information that investors need to know if they're going to invest in your business. They need to understand that you know the product and market fit. What's your product? Where does it fit in the market? What are your competitors doing? Do you own the valuable bits of your idea, the intellectual property, the copyright, the design? Are you fully across all the legal and financial information you need for your business? If you've placed a valuation on your business, where's your evidence that it's really worth that much? They're also really interested in you and your team, how you work together, how well you work together, how long you've worked together. They're not investing so much in the idea, they're investing in the people. Finally, as one entrepreneur put it to me, they want to know Why should I trust you with my money? So let's come to the third part of preparing your pitch, and that's the actual message. And I've got a simple question. Why is it that so many thoughtful people say such stupid things when they're under pressure?
Basically, we have some cleaning products for £250.
It's not going to be just a potato, it's going to be an experience.
All we need to do is impress them with the product and the pitch.
It's a bloody disgrace.
This world is as big as our oyster.
And thanks to the BBC Apprentice for those little nuggets. But there are lots of things people say that really annoy other people because they come across as jargon or meaningless, like think outside the box, or cascade that information. Well, waterfalls cascade, humans don't. Another favourite of mine is concerns were escalated, which basically is a way of hiding who said what to who. Another one is someone has been involved with a project or involved with a company. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean they led it? They were an assistant? They were standing on the outside watching? It's vague, very vague. Investors might be looking for very specific information, and they're going to do something called due diligence, which means basically checking the facts before they invest. So the kind of thing they're looking for is not this kind of language. They're looking for fair, clear, and not misleading language. They are looking for factual claims backed up with evidence. If you're making subjective claims, then you have to identify them as such. It might be your opinion that this is great, so say, this is my opinion. They don't want hype or jargon. In fact, vague language is a warning sign to them that you don't really know what you're talking about. But what if you're pitching something that's really technical and difficult and hard to grasp, or it doesn't exist yet and therefore you can't point to it and say, here it is? Well, there are some ways you can approach language that will help you get your message across if something in it is really hard to grasp. So try this exercise. Take a piece of paper, write in the centre what it is you're trying to pitch, and then think, well, is there anything I can do that prototypes this idea? Even if it's something made of cardboard or Lego. Is there anything I can use that's a substitute for the real thing, but helps explain the point? Can I road test my idea and bring the evidence to the pitch, either in, say, a video or testimonials? Is there something that I can role play with people I'm pitching with to imagine what the relationships are like, either with customers or suppliers? Then think, what am I trying to say? Which parts of my message are hardest to grasp? And which approach of these four makes my ideas feel more real? And then when you've got an approach, how can you test whether this makes your message work better? So you need to find a friendly person who will listen to your pitch. So let's talk about staying calm whilst you're pitching. Now, it's often thought that introverts are bad at pitching and extroverts are good, but that's not necessarily the case. Introverts may not like the experience of standing up in front of strangers and speaking, but that means they'll probably prepare much harder for it, whereas extroverts may be so confident they'll wing it and go off script and start saying things that they didn't really mean to say. Their mouths, their words will run away with them, and before you know it, they've over-promised, which is a terrible thing to do in a pitch. So the best advice for both introverts and extroverts is this. First of all, slow down. Don't let your words race, because people will struggle to hear you and they won't take you as seriously. It helps if you breathe deeply. Now, there's a great talk on TED about how body language can help you in situations like this. And by adopting certain poses, you can actually make yourself calmer and more confident. It's well worth a look. And the third thing is practice, practice, practice. Everyone's got access to a mobile phone with a video camera or a web camera. Stand in front of it and practice your pitch over and over again, and then watch yourself back. It's an embarrassing experience at first, but it's really, really useful. And when you think you've recorded a good one, show it to a friend and ask their opinion, and ask what it is they remember from that pitch, because that's the strongest part of your message, and it might not be the thing you want it to be. You might need to go back and rework other parts of your message to make them stronger. Finally, let's look at 3 ways you can kill your pitch and what it is you need to do to avoid them. Even the best pitch will fall flat if you don't know your audience, if you haven't done your homework about what they're looking for from you. And if you don't know your facts, no amount of style will get you through. It's really embarrassing, like this clip in the BBC's Dragon's Den.
Give me a snapshot of your balance sheet.
Okay. Assets and liabilities?
And the last pitch killer is if you don't know when to stop. If you've got 10 minutes to pitch to somebody, only speak for 3 or 4 minutes and allow the rest of the time for questions, the conversation. There's no way you'll cover everything they need to know in your pitch, so they're going to have to ask questions. If you think there isn't enough time to get your message across, then think again. There's no such thing as not enough time. There's only too many words. So think very carefully about which ones you're going to use, and make sure you get the important information out right at the top.